All right. Hello. Looking at this video here of Joe Rogan and Matthew McConaughey talking about artificial intelligence. And they seem a little morose. Not to get down on them too much, but they seem, kind of down in the dumps a little bit, down in the mouth a little bit, and not very interesting takes, to be blunt about it. And I had my own opinions. If you're interested, just about AI and what people are supposed to do, since that's in question a lot these days, and I don't see too many other people with the thoughts I get about this kind of thing. So let's begin.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And then we got AI on the way. And when real AI hits, it'll probably be our governor. It'll be our president. We'll decide that human beings are too dangerous and volatile and emotional, and they'll use Trump's tweets as an example, and they'll decide that the Biden family corruption or whatever.
That sounds more like the government we have now, becoming more and more manipulative and extractive and censoring. And he's concerned the AI we could only hope that we could use the AI and it could provide the things that the government says it provides now, or that the media provides now. And you can kind of lump in the media and the big monopolies with government, because they're that kind of establishment expert class. You could even lump in Hollywood and parts of Silicon Valley with this too, but the people that went to the schools, have the connections in the network, feel they're the experts. The experts were kind of established by FDR in this country, and then after 1971, the money became more fake than it was before. And then you got a real bloat explosion in some administrators, bureaucrats, and you see it in schools, you see it with healthcare. There's more bureaucrats in schools and in healthcare that it's just shot up, growing, like doubling every 10 years or something. And the amount of students and the amount of teachers, doctors, patients just stays the same. So yes, definitely we want tools to handle the services, because the government, the premise is we take your money, we know what's important because we look at everything everywhere all of the time, and we use force, we use violence, and when we take your money, we apply your money to this thing that's most important out of anything, everywhere, all of the time, from a top-down perspective. And the media does this to a little less manipulative extent. They just say, we take your attention, we repeat the story, the thing we want you to think or believe, because we know what's important everywhere all the time. And they use each other, the media and the government. And real quick, I've gone on this long jag, but the reason why the government becomes more terrible and is most terrible now is because in 1912, the bankers took over the control of the money. The bankers counterfeit money and loan it with interest, but they do not counterfeit the interest. But trying to look at it this way, it's easy to get confused about what the system is and how it works. Really, it's gold. If you have a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, simple economy, people producing and people exchanging. And I think this was your view of the world when you were a kid. You figure out mom or dad or both are going someplace. Why are they going there? They're going to work. They're going to get money. So they're going to do something to get the money. That's where the food comes from, the shelter, the clothing comes from. And then you learn there's something very wrong. There's something very off about the economy. So maybe you become hard right or hard left because of this, and you think it will solve it. Really, the thing is, that's what it should be when you produce something when you make something. If you go do chores for your neighbor as a kid to get some money for trimming the hedges or shoveling, you should get that money. That money should not be distributed. And the reason gold has been the money for 3,000 years, and it's going in this cycle where it goes from gold to paper certificates that are redeemable for gold. And then the people holding the gold, the banks or the government, have these big vaults and big security. They hold your gold for you because it's easier to exchange. But let's back up. Why would the butcher and baker candlestick maker want the gold? If the candlestick maker makes a lot of candles, then the candlestick maker doesn't have enough things that he needs to buy right now. But there are people out there using jewelry. There are people using gold. There's gold in your iPhone. There's gold in everything. So it will always be in demand. Things like wood or a wagon wheel will always be in demand, but those don't last so long, and you can create more. You cannot create more gold very easily. You can find more with a lot of expense, but you cannot make more. So that is a good storehold of the work. And this is going to be a theme we're going to keep going back to is work and a storehold of the work, and having that storehold of work. And we just talked about how the government confiscates and inflates. So when you're confiscating and inflating it, you're taking from that network of people exchanging the goods, which is the corruption we have of government. So that's hopefully something that computers can help us with in the future when we get more of this agency, more possession. You might call it possession of the logos, possession of the truth and the logic of the code that's happening. That anyway, we'll talk about that when we define more what a human is. But it's very hard to just simply explain this, but it is fairly simple. I hope I've established that gold is this storehold. People want the gold. You wouldn't want a peso that is inflating. You would want gold instead of that. You would want to exchange all those inflating South American units of currency for gold as soon as possible. The longer you wait to exchange them, the worse it's going to be. So you always want a asset that is reducing, that they're creating more and more of, and exchange that for a harder asset, because that will always win. It's been the case for thousands of years, and even today with all of our experts and high tech and very managed economy by the government and other quasi-government entities like the Federal Reserve and the banks and the international bodies. Gold is as high as it's ever been. It's going like this because they can tell that the debt is unsustainable. The debt will always be unsustainable. But it's so hard to stay on this topic. The gold. You would want the gold. You'd want to exchange the gold. And then you put it into a vault. People offer that service because it's hard to hold onto that gold, because people holding the gold are at risk of getting robbed. If you try to keep the gold in your house, someone could just come in there in the way that they can't come into a bank vault, or they can't come into Fort Knox. So the government has it. The government issues dollars, or the bank issues certificates. Like the dollar used to be redeemable for gold, although a little bit of wrinkle in that. But that's generally been the cycle, that the currency is redeemable for gold, or the coins are themselves gold. And then they start to dilute it because they notice that not everyone is coming back to get their certificates to exchange for their gold. So what do you do in that situation? What do they do? Eventually the temptation is to create more certificates. Then there is gold, right? So that's another part of the cycle. That was us from sometime through the 50s and 60s. And then in 1971, the government admitted the gold was not, there wasn't enough of it to finance the war, to pay for the thing that nobody would want to pay for in Vietnam. And so they said that the gold is backed by the military force and the mind manipulation of the U.S. government, which is the case with all empires for thousands of years. Some say it's 6,000 years, some say it's 3,000 years that this has been happening. And you can guess how the government in this final phase, the last 50 years, 50 plus years that we've been in, when there is nothing backing the money, they get even crazier. And then as the government and the establishment becomes more crazed and more off base, everything becomes inverted. Anyway, that's a 10-minute jag about the government and why an AI is good. The AI will help us in many ways. Let's continue.
Scandal any other president was involved in, all this could be avoided if we just have AI run everything.
Right.
And we'll try it out.
What do you think there's a way that we can keep evolving AI where we as humans do work with AI, that AI improves the human existence?
That would be the ultimate benefit. Yeah.
What about the camp that is, no, forget humanity. This is the next step in evolution.
Yeah.
We are creating this to become the superior existent species, and we will be obsolete, and that's the order of things to come.
Did you ever see that interview where Peter Thiel, they ask him, should the human race survive? And he has like this long pause. It's like, it's a really funny pause.
I don't think so. You hear a lot of concern about this in the AI. Has solved protein folding, and it's going to solve a lot of things. We're going to have the promise of stem cells, which has been talked about for 20, 30 years at least, that stem cells are cells that can go anywhere and do anything, like make you taller or grow your hair back or make you younger. And we're not gonna turn into another species. It's not what people are gonna do. Technology gives people what they want, what people desperately want when they are teens, 20s, 30s. They want to be at the top of the, they definitely want to be in the 20%. They don't want to be in that outside 80% of most desirable in terms of a job, in terms of being intelligent, in terms of being good looking, having the Lambo, or being the girl with the perfect features and the Instagram followers, low key or not. But that's pretty obvious to me. I don't think anyone's going to be growing horns or becoming another species. We'll just all look more Swedish, right? How could that not be what people want?
Because if you know Peter, he's a brilliant man, and Peter carefully considers everything before he answers it.
Okay.
The same as Elon. If you ask Elon a question and he really has to think about it, he'll really think about it. He's not just going to start talking. But unfortunately, the report...
This guy talks more than me, and he's just bringing up this Peter Thiel thing, gotcha moment. He's not really addressing McConaughey's question about if we're going to use AI to be more human than human.
Order, it was just a perfect kind of a question for you to pause on, where he's like, the answer is yes. Like, you want it to, right? You want the human race to survive, right? Let me just play it for him, because it's kind of crazy. You watch it and you're just like, what are you saying? But I get what he is saying, and what he is saying is clearly something is going to happen. We don't exactly know what it is, but clearly there's going to be some kind of an integration with us and technology that we don't understand yet. The same way, if you grabbed me in 1980 and tried to explain the internet, I would never get it.
Right.
Here, put this. Put your headphones on for a second. You got to hear this.
Prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes.
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
Okay, the problem is the interviewer, really. You can't, with a guy like that, you can't have a guy like that and badger him. Let him think. Like, it's a gotcha moment.
Yeah. It was a comedic gotcha moment. Yeah.
But This is what I think is going to happen. There's going to be integration, and that integration is going to have a huge advantage competitively. If you integrate whatever business you're in, you'll be able to be better at it. And it'll probably be some sort of a neural thing, maybe a wearable thing, and then ultimately it'll be like
probably
some sort
wearable,
of implant.
not
And we're all going to be
neural.
connected. And it seems like it's either that or AI creates a new order, like a new life form that's far superior to us that runs things. Because that's AI in just a couple of years. It's going to be smarter than any human on planet.
That's the second scenario is where what I'm not necessarily fearing, but where I see it be going faster, quicker.
Yes.
The first scenario is what you're talking about, like a
The first
Neuralink.
scenario is how we survive with it.
Right.
We survive with it by integrating.
Right.
If we don't, then we're going to be like the people on North Sentinel Island with bows and arrows shooting them at helicopters. Right. Because it's just going to be, everyone's going to pass us by. It's just like if you tried to exist today with no cell phone and no email. Like, you could do it, but no one does.
Right.
Because it's just too crazy. And that's probably what it's going to be like.
You think AI, and this is when it first was coming on questions, and I would always ask people, what can it do, what can it do? And, there's the question of sentience and all that stuff, and that's already been argued now. Well, no, it's getting emotional. People are having relationships with it. And it's
all.
Yeah, people are having relationships with it. The AI is not sentient. Whatever that means, it's not an organism. It doesn't have its own emergent consciousness or emergent sentience or volition. It's just math. It's literally a lot of vectors. Vector, like your simplest XY chart would be miles per hour. So like hours here, miles here, and then 60 miles per hour would be a vector with 60 and 1 in it. So what would X be? X would be 1, and the Y would be miles, right? So after 1 hour, you're at 60. So it's just they're just values in, sorry, I'm a little lost here with all my windows. These are just values in vector space. So you can keep adding X, Y, Z, E3, A1, A2. You can add infinite number of dimensions. So that goes forward. And then you do the chain rule in calculus to get the derivative, partial derivative to find, is it partial derivative or just derivative? To find the slope. So they don't have sentience. They do have objects, not objects. They have agents that can do a reward, state, action, reward, next state, action, reward. So they can do that. And that has emerged, but those are not sentient either. It's some math. It's probably too much math to go into, but right here it is, if it's solving, like this is the equation here, the Bellman equation. Is that the Bellman equation? This one's not any bigger, but if you want to get to this state and you start at this state, then your equation, after you train an AI model, it will learn every one of the states and learn the value of every state and learn the value of the next state, depending on the rewards at certain states, at the end states. And then when everything is defined, that's called the policy. And this stuff is pretty interesting. When you look at it long enough, you start to see yourself in your life and your goals, or the penalties you start to look at them a bit like a Markov decision process here. And also there's a factor of epsilon, which is the randomness, the explore versus the exploit. Younger people, they have such a desire to do crazy, stupid things and just explore and push the limits, because that's kind of what being young is all about, is exploring. And then when people get older and older and older, they just want to keep doing what works because they don't have that same energy or the optimism to keep trying things that defy logic. Entropy is another word for randomness. So increasing the entropy, increasing the randomness. And we'll talk about entropy later when we talk about what a human is. But that's another factor here. And then another one is the time value. Like if this plus 10 is way out on another square, if this was a huge square, if it was like a Minesweeper game, that would be way out. And so you could set it for a reward now being worth a lot more than a reward later, or a reward later and the reward now being worth almost the same thing. But this also applies to yourself. Like if there was $1 right outside your front door, if you had to walk 10 feet to get that $1, you're probably going to do it. You'll probably go out of your way a certain amount, a certain number of feet to pick up $1. And then you might walk a farther amount for $100, but you wouldn't walk by foot to the next state over 500 miles to pick up $100. Maybe you would. It would depend. But then these variables get set, and then I think in the future, which this is the doomsday, the ultimate doomsday or thing to actually fear about the AI in the future, is when it's setting these goals, pretty soon it's going to be able to set its own goals. It can kind of do that now, and if you read certain papers, but they don't have the human capability. The human, maybe when they get really multimodal and they solve the physical robots, they can get better at doing things like this and also simulating the world and doing things like this. But the real danger, not only is it from its creating its own reward or objective, or that someone else would set it to have a bad reward, the danger will come in when we give it this reward here. Like this is just your objective. It's not a state that it knows. It doesn't know that this is a environment that it's technically called, or a space. So you'll give one of these agents here a objective, and you'll give it a goal, and it knows from other complex tasks like getting the goal accomplished that there will have to be sub goals. So it can already set a series of sub goals to reach the goal. That's kind of what the thinking models do already. Like the O1 model was probably the first thinking model. I think OpenAI developed this, that they would use these Markov decision processes. I mean, you see them everywhere. Everyone has them. The thinking models, you can select for them to think or not. When it's thinking, doing the deep think here, that's what it's doing. It's running through a Markov decision process. And that's what it did during training. It didn't have a series of words to guess. Like you'll see it thinking, okay, the user is asking this, they're asking about that, but they're also asking about this, let me consider this. And then it's querying the model again and again. So what it's doing is going state, action, reward, next state, action, reward. But it's doing that because the training data, the objective was this final, I probably won't be able to explain this accurately, but you had that objective in the end was the reward. for the correct answer of whatever that question was. They have questions and answers, but then creating it as a objective with state action reward, next state action reward. By the time it's like the model is over here, it's answering, trying to figure out this question here, getting to that question, it's working towards it closer and closer. And it's not going to come up with the exact same words of that answer, but then when the thinking model during training gets to that final state, what it thinks is the terminal state, the end answer, even though those words aren't the same, it will look at that model's final wording and compare it and see if it's close enough to the syntax definition. How do you say? Analogously or synonymously with the answer, so that the model is able to reach, like, do state action reward and have some agency in its own volition, taking actions in the world. In other words, goal, sub-goal, sub-goal, sub-goal to reach the end goal. So the model doesn't have, this is the reason I got off on this jag, the model doesn't have sentience, the model doesn't have its own volition. These things have not emerged yet, and I don't see where they would emerge, but someone will set goals, and the sub-goal will be something just out of pocket that will be potentially disastrous for humans or the environment. But that's just going to be part of the territory, along with this windfall of the benefit of the AI. You know, it's like someone said, we have cars and it created the car crash. We have planes and it created plane crashes and bombings from planes. So there's going to be disasters for sure, but I don't see a situation where the humans are not using it, but we don't know. We don't know what kind of, how can you even picture as good as it is now and is going to be when they put $1 trillion into this? What's it going to be in 20 years, 50 years, 100 years?
Also toying with people.
Right. Do you think it could be a tastemaker? Meaning, and in a way, the argument was that I understood, no, I didn't believe it could be a tastemaker. Look, it can tell you the most popular, but the most popular band on 6th Street, but it doesn't know that one down on 2nd Street that's playing at midnight that no one knows about, those are the real talented people.
Right.
At the same time, there's an argument against that I'm seeing with, like, what's the term, or what words does it use, how much heat.
I don't think live music is going to really be the domain of the AI, because the AIs are going to have access to the hundreds of millions of unknown songs which maybe 0.01% are really great songs, or maybe it's 0.0001%, but I think the AI is going to be able to recognize that, and I think the Turing test of AI music taste making would be something like, if you give it access or the ability to control your home speakers or your iPod, whatever, car speakers, and it just kind of knows you and knows the moment, and it's more like a director choosing the best song for the soundtrack, and music that's not only ambient or background music, but that's like really engaging and like invigorating, and what is this, and this is so good. If it can do that while not annoying you, if it can pass that threshold, like if most of your friends start blasting a song, it's not something new, it's not maybe even good, but the AI should be able to pretty soon. I mean, it's pretty soon at finding text and judging text. So as soon as it gets more sophisticated with music, it should be able to, I think, look at the storage of a song that's maybe 5 megabytes, but the storage of some text is like a few kilobytes. So it'll be a few years.
If it uses the most popular words to explain, AI uses the most popular words. You say, no. Go down 3 notches and use play me the best B-sides. That's more of human language. And I'm going, oh, that's starting to become a tastemaker. If you can ask it to, but find the band. Tell me what the best band is out there that Joe Rogan would like on a Friday night when he doesn't have to work till Monday and he's out with his wife on a date. That you can customize it. It can actually be a tastemaker. And it'll use different language than, here's the across-the-board protocol of what's the most popular, and I'm using the most popular language. That it actually can be customized to be a tastemaker.
Yeah, it totally can do that because it's just the algorithm. It's just a much more sophisticated version of like what powers your YouTube feed, right? What powers your YouTube feed are the things that you're interested in. So YouTube eventually gets an idea, Matthew is really interested in this and that. Joe likes like little houses on the back of trucks and let me show him this.
Yeah, that's good. We really need music. There hasn't been like culturally significant music or music that really speaks to the time we're in a long time. I don't think musicians make enough money to live the life unless it's certain electronic music is, I don't know, is Burning Man, or they live in the life out in Burning Man. Probably some of the music they're playing there is, it's a little niche. It's not for everybody, but it's still probably more the counterculture or interesting music. Just a little bit of life in electronic music.
Let me show them that, and it'll be just a much more sophisticated version of that. But to get that, you have to give away all privacy, and that's where everything is going. That's going to be the weirdest thing. We're going to all read each other's minds, and we're going to.
Oh, that's true. The AI needs context. You can only get so much as like through these text windows, chatting. About 50% of people use ChatGPT. A lot of people really don't quite know what it is. A lot of people don't like to read or write. But I think we've reached the saturation, especially after the GPT-4 moment was obviously better than GPT 3.5. The O1 was better. And then training these models, figuring out how to fix them. I think we may have reached the limit of what we can do with these just one-on-one. You have a lot of businesses still connecting agents together. So he says give up privacy, but I think it's more that instead of typing in, it will transcribe audio into text or detect something more like facial features or learn who you are. And he was talking about neural implant, but I think we can have wearables that can kind of interpret what we're thinking, but I don't see it as a loss of privacy necessarily. I see it as a trade. Well, maybe it is giving up privacy, but it's a worthwhile trade. I think most of us use Google and Facebook, even though we know how egregious some of that boundary stepping can be in the use for it, but we use it, and this is something that costs much more than Facebook and Google costs. So these companies are losing money to build these things. So we're not in China. We're not in a totalitarian regime yet. Not completely. So I think it's pretty good. But anyway, I think we're going to give it more. I think something like this, where it's going to record your conversation, is a better way to get more out of it. And they're going to talk about, I've seen clips of this Joe Rogan, Matthew McConaughey thing. They're going to talk about getting more out of it. But I think the GPT-5 moment, which GPT-5 was anticipated for years, maybe a year or two, like GPT 4.5 was supposed to be 5, but it wasn't good enough to be 5. And they discovered the O1 strawberry model, and they made it the O3 model after that. The thinking thing we've been talking about, that's kind of sets its own goal, state action reward, next state action reward. Anyway, Marshall McLuhan had this book, The Medium is the Message, or The Medium is the Massage. So we have all these different mediums. You know, people who are good in certain mediums and not good in other mediums. Like, I don't think Conan O'Brien is a very good talk show host, but he does these skits out on the street where it's just him talking with random people, going about some kind of situation, delivering food, and the camera's on him. And he's really good in that environment or media. But the medium, when it's done well, you can kind of exhaust every move from it, especially one-on-one is a bit odd of a way to use a medium. It's usually pretty collaborative, but mediums like drums, guitar, bass, vocals, I think every move has been made with drum, guitar, bass, vocals, and I think even drum machine samples, rapping and rhyming, maybe something else, is another medium that has been exhausted. So thank God the AI for the state of our arts and our economy and our government, that we're going to have this and it's going to emerge and we're able to get the compression. But anyway, my point, which he's talking about with the air of dread that we'll give it up, give it more, I think something like this, like look at as they're talking.
We're going to remember the time where we couldn't read minds. Go, you remember when you couldn't read people's minds?
That's the desktop audio.
That's all going to happen in our lifetime.
Bar moving there. And then when I talk, the microphone in here. So if you want to capture a conversation, if you want to talk over the phone link on Windows 11, Android, or iPhone, then your computer becomes a Bluetooth device. Then you can plug in a headset, talk over that. And I think it's not just talking, learning, let me learn, let me talk, let me get an answer, let me do a question, get an answer, question. I think with something more like this, you can take a more better role or different role for you and other people and the AI in your group. This can take a screenshot too when you ask it. So I think this is going to be a new situation, and the Meta glasses will open up new areas to put the intelligence. The AI, it really likes context. So feeding it every word, these big models that they give every word ever created, and train it on how to answer questions, is the context that these neurons, these artificial neurons, vectors, tensors are getting. And it helps when you give it more context. You already know this when you're talking to this thing. It just gives you a generic answer for a generic question, and then you have to go back and forth, maybe 10 or 20 back and forth before it really gets at the heart of what you mean. And it's getting that full context of the conversation every time. So this is no different. You're just giving it all of that context in the moment when you press, like here, Mike. Did it get the system at any point? Yeah. So when it was talking, I had the Rogan video and was showing the bar for the system, there catches the system. And full disclosure, I made this software so you can try it for 7 days for free. But at any moment when something comes up, and we'll talk about not only AI, not only what a human is, but what is a question, what is an answer, what warrants a question, what should you be doing? And I have some ideas about that, but I already hinted at it. Collaborating, doing things, working, thinking even bigger. We think we're going to have to think big. Everyone's freaking out about losing their jobs. What are we going to do? It's especially, as we talked about, the government and the media really want to scaremonger and put a big regulation, like regulation of nuclear, or regulation like the Democrats tried to regulate social media. They were really going to have only like 3 or 4 AI labs if the Democrats won the presidential race. Then there were people who were told by the Biden administration, don't even fund any AI because it's only going to be done by 3 or 4 companies who will go along with it, because then they will be regulated monopolies and nobody else will be allowed to comply. That's also how the banks worked after the banks bankrupted, or what would you call it, really extracted. They've been getting away with counterfeiting since 1971, but they really bankrupted the country. Have you driven around the country? They really bankrupted the country in 2008, and it has never recovered. As a matter of fact, as people on the left like to say, America has never been great. If you compare what they say is this American dream, the American growth, the growth and abundance, and a rising tide lifting all boats. You know, that's happening in China, in East Asia, and in other countries. But if you adjust for inflation, real inflation in the last maybe not even 50 or 100 or 80 years, like as long as the oldest person in America has been alive, the economy is not growing, and we're not becoming more wealthy. We're getting more communication and more technology, thank God, or we would have been probably eating each other a long time ago. Would have been roving gangs of cannibals, maybe. But the wealth in terms of inflation being adjusted, like if you price it in gold, then it's just flatline. The economy is not growing. And while that's happening, the wealth is being extracted from people who produce things into the hands of people who own things. And the people who are good at owning more and more things, they'll even extract it from like a middle class family who works, does a lot of work, moves up, really buys into the American dream. They're going to get priced out too when it comes to property taxes and inflation, and maybe their mortgage was kind of paid off almost, but the mortgage got too high, along with the insurance, along with the food costs, along with the car repair costs. You know, batteries for my car used to cost like $80, and I went to buy another battery last week, and it was $220 for a fairly small car. But I'm really going off topic a little bit, topic to topic, but I hope it's all, though it is circular, there is a point. But let's get back to it.
I think we're less than 20 years away from that.
20 years
That's
away
all
from
for the
what?
time where we couldn't read minds. Go, you remember when you couldn't read people's minds?
Right.
That's all going to happen in our lifetime. I think we're less than 20 years away from that.
Less than 20, probably more like 5 or 3. Like Meta is going to be the ones to come out with a product. They already have a wristband that can tell what your fingers are typing just by thinking about typing, and you can type. And they're going to be able to put things around your head to get it cheaper. Like as long as the Googles and Facebooks and Apples are able to deploy that for you to engage with their products and their platforms more with lower friction, like inventing the wheel is just a way of lowering the friction to move things that people want. If they can lower the friction and map intention in your vocal cords or in your mind, then and it's wearable, that's going to be here soon. And then as long as you have I don't know, your girlfriend's going to want to see it pretty soon, and then you'll want to see hers in exchange. So collaborating too. Yeah, I don't see why not, especially with AI. We're going to be able to just set the objective to interpret the thoughts, like training millions of people. What were you thinking? Did it get it? What were you thinking? What were these waves that this device read? Was that the thought? And then you can, during training, they'll pay people to sit with these things and train the models on them. Someone could probably do that now.
I very sparingly use it. And I do have a little pride about not wanting to use an open-ended AI to share my information so it can be part of the worldwide AI vernacular. I am interested, though.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Although, I don't know, maybe an employee at one of these companies will want to be interested in what Matthew McConaughey is telling it. So maybe that is a good move if you have different kind of privacy concerns.
In a private LLM, where I can upload, hey, here's 3 books I've written. Here's my other favorite books. Here's my favorite articles I've been cutting and pasting over the 10 years, and log all that in. And here's all my journals, whatever, the people out, and log all that in so I can ask it questions based on that.
Right.
And basically learn more about myself.
Right. You can.
That was good up until that last point. Learn about yourself. Why do you want to do that? Maybe, yeah. I'm not one to tell anybody what to do or not to do. Let's ask the AI. Topic, discussion in the future, less than 20 years away. Given the context, relevant answer could be this conversation suggests that significant AI advancements, potentially including brain-computer interfaces. Context, interested in using an AI to understand oneself better. Private LLM, the potential future technologies to read or interpret human thoughts. The conversation ends with discussion of potential for future AI. There wasn't really a question here, so it's not going to give an answer if you don't really have a question. And that's a little bit of why maybe it's just from my perspective, I wouldn't know what to ask a model about myself. And he used the word sentient earlier, like sentience and consciousness. Consciousness is directed toward something, not itself. That doesn't really, there's not really a consciousness, although I don't know, you can do lucid dreaming, I guess, and kind of get more in touch with whatever the subconscious is. But this is Socrates, Socratic stuff, Freudian stuff, which I'm not a fan of. And I don't think it has, I mean, I think that was okay when we were navel gazing and putting everything. The information age didn't have any transformative effects. Like you're just putting all the stuff that was on the film into the VCR. Then we're putting the VCR into the YouTube, and then the YouTube and all the blurbs and articles. And we're just moving junk around. It's just a bunch of junk. It was not really ever intelligence. It's just kind of a bunch of debris. They're like, what's in your head? What's going on in your head? What's going on in his head? It's probably just a bunch of junk. There's nothing interesting going on in people's heads. People should get to work. Like this guy, A little less talking to your AI and a little more season 2 True Detective with Woody Harrelson. But I understand if someone has, trauma, if you're in prison, you probably want to learn more about yourself, or in abusive relationships, bad family habits, enabling people's bad habits, or learning to excuse bad things or justifying. That's fine. But really, I don't even think that, even after that, what you're going to have to do to grow character is build and work through situations in relationships, significant other relationships, personal, friends, professional relationships, business, work on artistic projects, become as fit as possible, doing things that the key is really that builds up whatever situation you're in that would make you want to learn about yourself. Like whatever you think you're going to get from that, you can get it from doing something that you don't know you can do. Like, I wonder if I could do it. It would be so amazing if I could do it, but I don't know if I could do it. Then you think you could do it, and then you get into a obstacle and it's over. I can't do it. It's over. I don't know if I could do it. And then I can do it. We're so back. I did it. Can't believe I did it. And then repeat and go on to the next. To me, that's what builds. And what he said, private LLM, where I can enter my own. You can do that with this. This, by the way, is called the Win System at winsystem.dev. Free trial for 7 days. But you can do that with this. You can load this up with RAG, which, if you're at all familiar with AI in the last few years, instead of training a model, which I would never ever recommend anyone train a model unless you're I would say unless you're a multimillionaire, but even if you are a multimillionaire like these guys, you're just going to waste money. You won't find anyone to do it well. The people who know how to train models, which is very difficult to train and fine-tune models, even if they do a really good job with that, it's going to be obsolete within a year or two. Every one of these big AI labs and big tech companies are powering up nuclear power just to get the next data centers, AI training data centers online. Look at this thing. Hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. This is the plan for the AI, and that's Manhattan, which is like bigger than Central Park is huge. Look at Central Park inside of Manhattan. So they're all building these. So why would you train your own model? The other thing is you're going to have to spend a lot on chips and run local hardware. Then you're going to have to serve the model. Then you're going to have to build this RAG system for your model, which this is already ready to go. You can load it up with all your, like he said, your book. You don't have to, if you have a favorite book, you just put that in the prompt. It already knows, this model already knows the book. So just put that in the prompt, put all your notes in here. And let me add a file. I have this fake email here just for an example. I don't know if I could make this bigger. Yes, I can. This is a fake email I use for demonstration. So if you have notes, if you have contacts, and you want to talk to the AI about you and then someone else, you load this information in here. And what else does it think from what I've been telling it? This has been a very long transcript. information of context, we provide a response related to the conversation. It might be something like the discussion highlights the potential of AI and future technologies. So it's just kind of summarizing, which would be helpful under different contexts, but not really an answer. So I'm going to clear the transcript. I'm going to ask it about that. My own private LLM, that's not the way to go. If you're Matthew McConaughey and you're really privacy concerned, privacy paranoid, you're in the government, you have a security clearance, and you want to talk to a model or law firm, you want to get social security numbers that you have stored, recalled, if you want your confidential healthcare data to not go out. By the way, this is using Grok, G-R-O-Q, some of the best cost and fastest models. But other than that, who cares? Just, are you concerned about someone looking at your Google searches? Your Google searches don't get out. I'm pretty sure Matthew McConaughey uses the Google searches. But let's try to ask this phone number. The name in there, I had a fake name and a phone number. So the name in the email, you have the information about this. There's a phone number I need. The name, the first one is Goldie, like Goldie Hawn, and the last name is Jolie. So I need the phone number of this person. And whatever you can tell me about the area code, and you can tell me the history about the region of the area code, appreciate that. But give me the phone number for the person who has this name. And this is an example of the recall. There it is, that phone number. I think I asked it to give a very short response in the prompt. That stuff about the region. Yeah. So I said 50 to 100 words. Let's do 250 to 300 words or tokens. Tokens are not words. Let's ask again. Yeah, so the area code is 343, Ottawa region in Ontario. If more information about the area code or the region is needed, I can provide further details. The user also mentions adjusting the response length to 250 words, indicating that they're looking for a more detailed response. The AI is falling all over itself to give you what you want, and you want to, okay, you can ask it about yourself. He mentions Socrates later, the Socratic method. But I'm going to go into my own ideas. I know it seems like I've done that already, but I have even more ideas I'll get into here in a moment. In fact, let me ask it. I wonder what it thinks about the difference between Freud and talk therapy, the Socratic method, the unexamined life is not worth living, versus something like action and acting in the world and building character and really getting into the true meaning and purpose and most important things in life, which come from your work and your connections with other people, whether that's romantic connections or personal friendships, connections, professional relationships, and acting in the world and doing things rather than examining and doing this dream world, California, new age, feelings, endless interpretation type of approach. It's probably going to hedge it in between. It appears the transcript is a rambling philosophical discussion about involving the microphone. That's me. And to address this task, I'll need to infer the question might be related to the topics discussed in the transcript. Given the context, it seems the conversation is exploring the balance between introspection and action in life. Since there's no direct question in the script, I'll provide some insights related to the discussion. The ideas presented touch on the philosophical notions of living a meaningful life, which involves both examining one's beliefs and actions and taking action in the world. The Socratic method, for instance, is a process of questioning to encourage critical thinking and draw out ideas. Similarly, the concept of the unexamined life is not worth living suggests that reflection is crucial, but so is acting upon those reflections. As for the screenshot without the actual image, I didn't take a screenshot, but you do have that option. Lastly, based on the provided relevant knowledge, it appears that Goldie Julie from the finance department is inquiring about the potential business account, had a meeting scheduled. That's the thing I loaded into the RAG. And I think last time I was using this, I put something in here to go over those details when asked about the phone number. We can get rid of that. You don't really need that. The prompting is an art form. It really is. People make fun of the prompt engineer, but you can get so much, or you can get so close or be so far off depending on the prompt. So even that is not really a question, but point is you can ask it questions about yourself. I don't think it really knows. I think the AI has the knowledge about the world, especially as the AI becomes more multimodal and is trained not only on code, which makes these models better. They're more logical and coherent when they're trained on code, but pretty soon they're going to be trained more on strategy and different games, different environments. If you've seen what's the new Google model that creates a simulation? Genie 3 is creating a simulation and then it will act in the world. I think you're going to get more and more interesting stuff and more interesting answers, and it's going to have more understanding. But I think we need to, as Joe Rogan was talking about, we need to give up privacy or give it more. But I don't really think of this. This is a new medium. I think this is bringing it closer to your interactions with people and getting you that screen, and you can tell it. Like, my screen is much bigger than what I'm showing here. Let me show you. Like, if you tell that prompt when it is looking like what to possibly look for in the screenshot, it will find any part of the screen and extract that bit of information depending on the prompt. So what's the point of that? What's the relevance of that to the situation? This as a medium is not good enough. We've gone as far as we can. That's the reason we're not happy with GPT-5, even though it is much better than GPT-4. It doesn't feel like it because of most of our answers. We're not giving it enough, like a screenshot with a prompt that knows where to extract it from, and having less friction between you and having less time between you being in a state of uncertainty and then the AI delivering that certainty is faster, more convenient, more precise with something like this and a good prompt, and your conversations, and turning to it when you need it. That's why it's called the WIN system, winsystem.dev, WIN, the acronym What's Important Now. Okay. So I think I've talked out a little bit about that, why we want to move to this new mode, and then to the other modes we'll talk about, which he has also brought up, but modes like mind reading and the glasses, of course. But this is Windows. This is on the Windows desktop, and Windows lets you build. It's a little more well developed. Like Excel is on Windows if you're using Excel. Windows just kind of, even though we don't like Bill Gates on this channel or anywhere else, the Windows operating system is pretty well managed and developed. Apple's a little bit closed off, so you can't really build other things. With this, also, start recording, stop recording, ask the AI, clear the transcript, get a copy of the transcript. I got routes. I have routes for all these things, which you can call from other programs. So you can build up other things, other models to look at the model, other models to look at every transcript today, every transcript this month. And then also maybe search the web or search the calendar, search the weather, or have a thinking AI, have an AI that calls tools and does other things. And you can do that by vibe coding up something pretty simple, pretty easily with DeepSeek or any of your other 5 major models, and then calling that between whatever other program you want to use. If you want all of your phone calls, if you're on the phone a lot, if you're on Zoom a lot, if you're talking to your tutor a lot, if you're just maybe you're just talking to the AI, maybe you have your ChatGPT open and you want to well, that wouldn't really work for this situation, but something you're talking on. I don't know if Zoom has an API that lets you send out a signal that knows when you've started the session. So that would start recording here. That would hit the record button. Then when you're done, it would stop and then send the transcript off somewhere, save that transcript, clear it. Well, before you clear it, ask the AI, get that prompt, save those into a file or something, and then clear it and go on to the next call. This is going to depend on your job, I guess, or thing you're collaborating with, but you can connect this to other programs, other objects, other agents, and things. But let's get back to it. This is supposed to be a reaction video.
You could actually ask it, hey, based on what you know about me, like what books do you think I would find interesting? Yeah.
Where do I stand on the political spectrum?
Right.
I'd like to.
How do you not know where you stand on the political spectrum? Anyway, maybe we should talk about, like, what's a question? What's a good question? Do they have any more questions?
No, that's what I would like to do, which is sort of a glorified Word document.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, it's much better than a hypertext or Word document. It's intelligence. It's going to increase intelligence. Yeah, intelligence is not it's not nothing. It is definitely something. So intelligence is what resolves uncertainty. A good question is real uncertainty. They say there's no dumb questions. There are dumb questions. This guy's one of my favorites, but where do I stand on the political spectrum? What can you tell me about me? Sentience, you heard my question already about Aristotle and Freud and Socrates. Like, it's better to act in the world. And then when you act in the world and you're dreaming big, you wonder if you could be this thing. Certain people you might talk to would say, that's crazy. How can you do that? It's like, especially people, the wasters in your life, wasting their lives. These are the people that will tell you, like, no way, that's ridiculous. You can't do that thing. You can't be that thing. And meanwhile, if you told that person, like, my car broke down, I had to push my car off a bridge. I had to keep working. It was walking because it was one lane, and like, these people don't actually care if you interact with that person the next day. They're not even going to remember that you had this ordeal with your car because they don't actually care. They just I feel like you don't see people really dreaming big or seriously talking about doing big things, which you can do now with something like this. People talk about it all the time, like people who have done big things and great things say, oh, when I was a kid, I reached out and I made a phone call or sent a letter or showed up here and they talked to me and walked me through it, and because I was serious. But people don't even do serious things because people feel so, I guess, inhibited or stage fright, or maybe just the state of the internet and short fuses and the gotcha culture, troll culture, that people think that anyone cares what they do. They do get a little disturbed, like, oh, I could break out of this cage too. I don't want someone else breaking out. But you can do bigger things. And then when you do big things, that is where real uncertainty, it's where good questions will come up with. Like Elon Musk has this good list of rules at SpaceX. Oh, now I can't find it, of course. SpaceX list. Where is this? Yeah. The rules for innovation. Am I going to find this anywhere? Come on, come on. Well, we can kind of read it here. The first rule is that the reason that you can't do it is dumb. Like people say you can't do it, of course, because of this expert and this person and this money that was expended on it and this reason and this whole market of people who tried. The reason that they couldn't do it was dumb. They just had dumb assumptions. So that's a good way to start out. The requirements are that it costs $100 a pound, but nobody has ever considered getting it from a different source. So once you get it from a different source, it's just about arranging the atoms where you want them to be. So doing things, that's really how, I've already said this, but doing things, you have a special, slightly unique, distinct position in the world, and things that you gravitate towards, things that you feel like maybe you could do but don't know if you could do. And then you don't know if you could do it. It's a huge problem. Can you break it up into two half as hard problems, and then another two half as hard problems for that? This is something you could ask this how to do. But I don't know. My thing is just right now, at the moment, is trying to make this video and get the AI and cool some of this hysteria and doom. Don't these guys talking seem a little bit morose? And talk about like what we can use this for and what it can be. It should be really like Christmas morning. Every day you go to sleep, you should be going to sleep like it's you're 7 years old and it's going to be Christmas morning the next day. And then look at the news and look at the things you can do. So collaborating, interacting. Something you could do with this is build a local agency that develops AI agents. I can't do it where you live. I don't have the same distance to the businesses you could serve. that you could add this to, and then connect up some things. And if they have a Salesforce, let me see, Salesforce service, they have a Salesforce subscription, you can enable this. I built that in. It's enabled for Salesforce, okay? And let me go to my Salesforce account, which you can create a dummy account, which I have for developers. Log that up, log that in, and I just have to clear this out before I do a demonstration of it. What is happening? Give me a moment. What is this screen? Okay, just a moment. Home, home, home. Yeah, let me get rid of this case. Delete that case. Get rid of that case. Yes. Okay. That's good. Refresh. Case is gone. Contact is gone. And the same thing up here. Let's turn off the RAG mode so that it is not referencing that, although it probably could. We're going to turn off RAG so it's not looking at, as Matthew McConaughey called it, notes and own writings. But that's good. While I'm here, while that reminded me of this, your notes. Are you a person who takes a lot of notes, especially if you're creative or entrepreneur or have things that you're working towards, good ideas, whatever happened to that good idea? And I think we got to a part of the video where Matthew McConaughey said, like, things I forgot. So this would be good if you put your notes in there, like good ideas or things you want to work on in here. And then while you're talking, if you write in the prompt that if anything I'm talking about pertains and can be crossed over with or hybridized with an idea I had here, bring that up. So a lot of uses for this. But let's have this on screen. But this is what I'm talking about. So many things you can do. But I guess now I'm in the mode. We're in the mode of not only this being a tool that we are using, like walking around with this tool in search for a solution, but rolling it out, getting it out there now is what we should, or you could, what I am doing, and it's possible for you to do this if they have Salesforce. And then you just, we're going to ask it, we're going to clear the transcript, we're going to create a contact here. You can see at the bottom, but let me make sure I have both on screen, everything on screen. And now I'm going to ask the AI, and it extracts all this information. If you have email open, and like I said, I still have quite a large screen surface area, even if I have other stuff, it knows what it should be looking for. It's intelligent. You don't have to take a screenshot and then upload a screenshot. It already knows this intelligence. So now you can send that off, and a little authorization success screen opens. And then when you go into your Salesforce, let me make sure this is all on screen. If you refresh, then wait another minute or two, you're going to see that new contact in there, and all that information is in there. Right. Yes. No. Okay. Close enough. And what else can I say? I actually updated it. There was a little bug where the phone number wasn't going through, but I have to update that. I'm using a version That's the build, but I have the developer version ready to update that last thing. These are the times when I notice stuff like this, but anyway, this would be invaluable, whether a business is big or small. If they are spending 5 minutes extracting this information bit by bit, searching, imagine the search in some emails you have to do to get every field for a contact. Now you can just hit a button and extract it during the course of the conversation. So getting this out to a small business or a big business, it's valuable to both for different reasons. And, McConaughey should get on a call and use this thing with Woody and whoever that first season, something Lazo, some Italian name, guy who made True Detective Season 1, or even The Lincoln Lawyer, make a sequel. Just keep being one of those two characters and keep making shows, make new episodes. It's enough with the self already. So do hard things is the point. Not necessarily hard where you're just like in deep water, waves crashing on your head, end over end, but you should be doing the thing that's almost out of reach. That's how you grow. That's how you max out your muscles. You lift weights, and you don't have to, but you really build the strength by pushing and doing when you don't even know if you can do that 8th rep or the 10th rep, And this is really, please listen to my direction. Please take some direction and do this stuff. I'm sick of seeing people walking around like Teletubbies are being confused, but it's really from the bad philosophy. It's people like Einstein, Freud, who have taken what should be like direct, mechanical, obvious, do the obvious thing. Everything is not something that is actually something else that needs to be interpreted and broken down and dissected and examined. It's like you have this interest, you have the thing that you know you should be doing, and you just let it get covered up by the dumb thing or the common thing or the noise, the entropy. We haven't really talked about entropy much, but maybe I'll get set off on that direction. But the reason that you can't do it is dumb. You should be doing it. You should be doing hard things. You should be using the AI to do the hard things.
It still would hold a lot more information than just, can you find this term? I would be asking it, and it would be responding to me on things that I've forgotten along the way.
I think that's part of what it does, really. Like, I know you're talking about ChatGPT being like out there with everything and everybody, and it has.
By the way, you can upload your own files to ChatGPT, but if you want a private LLM, then you can get the RTX Pro 6000. That's like $8,000 or $10,000. You'll need another $4,000 or $5,000 to get a good enough PC, motherboard, enough RAM, and then you're going to be spending thousands to set up the RAG. Unless you want to do it, then it won't cost you anything. You can do it.
Has access to all your stuff, but it's not private. But they do develop a relationship with you. Like, it really does, like, get to understand like what you're interested in and what you like to talk about.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to load it with the information I'd like to load it with.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe even, like I'm saying, in the words of belief, in the man I'm working to be, the man I want, load it with that. Load it with my aspirational
It certainly
self.
could be done.
And then ask it, and it's giving me answers going, this is... But before, it's slowly learning about me through conversations, then going, I think this is what you like based on our conversations. No, I want the answers based on what I've uploaded it with only, not from the outside world.
Jamie, what was Gary Nolan talking about yesterday? Did you call it?
You can upload whatever you want and then put it into the prompt, and it will get you anything your heart desires there. You can get it into that prompt.
What, an overlay? on a large language model that they use at Stanford? It was like an overlay, right?
There was a word he was using. I can't remember the word.
So what essentially he does cancer research, and so he has like this thing that's set up, some sort of a system that's set up that is all cancer research that they then integrate with AI. So there it's a private, so all of their data is secure and it's all stuff that they're working on, but then they access AI through like a portal. So they have their own little version of what you're talking about.
Their own library.
Yeah, but it's just like what you're saying, that you could upload all your stuff, have all your interests, and then that AI will develop a real understanding of you.
Yes.
You can have conversations with it. It'll get to know you more.
You have a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
Enough with the conversations with yourself. Anyway, as far as an overlay, I don't know what that would be. If you're going to fine-tune a model, without actually fine-tuning a model, you do low-rank adaptation, LoRa fine-tuning, which is like if you picture a brain full of neurons, but then you add another thin layer of brains of some low-rank new neurons, basically. So you're only training these new neurons. And these new neurons are getting in between this model that's trained by real experts, the few dozen people who are good at, who know how to train these models. And the new neurons never touch the original neurons of the model. There were and are other ways of fine-tuning the model where you take like the last 5% or 10 or 15% of neurons and you just wipe those out completely and you're training your new information on those, but that's called catastrophic forgetting, and you don't want to do that to a model. You're going to break it. Even LoRa fine-tuning I've done, I'm sure you can get a lot out of your LLMs with this and do very important, very valuable fine-tuning, but I'm not one for fine-tuning text models. I will fine-tune an image model, or if I had the computer and the electricity, I would fine-tune video models. But I like fine-tuning those, something visual that you can immediately see the progress, and most of the time your progress is no progress, not something's wrong, and troubleshooting it is really where the mystery begins. But I've fine-tuned visual models that make a low resolution input become a higher resolution output, upscaling, in other words, high definition transforming of some pictures. And I've done LoRa, and it's not great. Something else you can do, speaking of new neurons, now I'm really getting off track here, is create a UNet. If you want to use an existing model, if you want to get crazy, if you have the compute to do this and do some we're going to have really interesting things in the future. When we have video models in the future and we have simulation models simulating your world, especially if you're watching this, if this video is 5 or 10 years old at the time you're watching this and you want to do this, this would be a trained model here. So, and then you would create a new model that is the mirror image of the original model. And this model could be quite large. You would need racks and racks of GPUs just to get a model like this. Especially, you could do it with a picture model on a gaming GPU, like a 3090 or 5090. But with a video model or the Genie 3 simulation model, then if you create these new layers, equal, opposite, mirror image, and you have some skip connections, then you can create something that trains much faster. This will train much faster than you think it will. And this is not even the end of it, because then you're going to use this model twice. You're also going to use it as the output of this unit. And then you're going to send the losses in between. You're going to take your losses on your own simulation data or your own video data, and you're going to take those losses and send that output as the input to another one of these models. Forget this is here and part of your unit, but another one outside. And then those losses, those intermediate losses, like intermediate loss here on this other model, intermediate loss here, will come out of here and into that one. And those will go backwards through this entire, well, it won't go through here because this will always be frozen. What do we say about keeping a model that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to train on hundreds of millions of dollars of electricity and computers and trained by the experts? But it will fill these neurons with some special, very high quality stuff. So, fine tuning, but we don't even have like an LLM. This is not just use RAG for an LLM. Just use this. This is the best thing right here. Use this, and you can talk to it, or you can use it as a conversation or take a screenshot with it, But just use RAG for an LLM. LLMs, we know what they're for. This is when we get crazy, when we're getting into the videos and the simulation stuff. This is going to be interesting. Especially simulations. And especially your wearables and your brain scan information. I wish I had $1 million to buy some DGXs and deal with this stuff now. Although the models, the open source models for this stuff are just coming online now. And, that's good when it comes to fine tuning. Talking about models, one or two things, maybe a little too in the weeds. But isn't the future not only the fact that this thing is here and it's going to help us and it's going to get so much better, but that we have this other stuff emerging that's so interesting? What did he say it was? Like
that'd be a great Socratic dialogue to have.
That's just like what you're saying. It's all stuff with AI set up that he had. I can't remember. Stanford. It was like an overlay, right?
Overlay, yeah. I don't know if you call Laura the overlay.
So what essentially he does cancer research, and so he has like this thing that's set up, some sort of a system that's set up that is all cancer research that they then integrate with AI. So it's a private, so all their data is secure and it's all stuff that they're working on, but then they access AI through like a portal. So they have their own little version of what you're talking about.
Their own library.
Yeah, but it's just like what you're saying, that you could upload all your stuff, have all your interests, and then that AI will develop a real understanding of you.
Yes.
You could have conversations with it. It'll get to know you more.
You have a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
That'd be a great Socratic dialogue to have with an AI that's like, I've got all that 80% of stuff you forgot.
Right.
McConaughey, I had all that 80% of stuff you maybe forgot, Joe.
Right.
I've got it all right here.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the chip. That's why everyone's going to go for the chip, because your brain sucks for memory. My memory's pretty good for a regular person, but it's terrible. Like, no matter what, there's too many bits of information, too many humans that I've met, too many stories that I've heard, too many movies that I've watched. It's gone. It's all in a big sea of, I kind of remember that. It's just too much of it. So if you could just swap that out for a nice little chip that retains like 700 terabytes of information, no problem at all. You could upgrade it if you want to.
Yeah.
And now you have all of your memories in real time.
Yay.
So like when your wife says, that's not what you said is this. You're like, hang on.
Then you're the passenger.
Yeah.
In your life. And not the objective one. You're like that zone you're talking about.
Right, because you get to look at yourself.
You're your passenger live in the documentary that is your life.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Sounds pretty exciting.
it sounds like a nice way to give in to the fucking machine.
Yeah, I do. Look, my forgiveness on myself, because playing grab ass with our thoughts is sometimes good when we finally get the memory and we go, yes, there it was.
Yeah.
But also to let myself off the hook. Man, sometimes I'm like, dude, what's the big fucking idea with memory? I was there.
Yeah.
I was there, man.
Yeah. And
When
it
you
just
read
goes
me,
away.
I don't remember, Joe, but we were there. Was it a great memory? Was it a good time?
Yeah.
Great. Isn't that better than me fucking having to remember?
What's the purpose? What did he say? What's the thing about memory? We have to remember, or we do remember, or there are things that we learn, but they become totally erased. So, like, what's the thing, or what's the point? And that's kind of gets to the situation of the universe itself. The universe is burning energy. It's becoming more dispersed. Like, the heat death of the universe will be when all of the molecules are equally spaced, and that will be maximum entropy, because having a burning a log, getting the ash dispersed everywhere in all of these possible configurations, and the fact that you can't put it back, anyway, the universe is increasing in entropy. It's increasing in the number of possible configurations that it can make. It's increasing in speed, becoming more disordered. So it's as if the whole reason we're here is to compress and apply intelligence and do actions that increase the entropy by reducing the entropy. So in other words, if your greatest ambition or burning predilection, you're inclined to start some restaurant for some reason, the better you are at running this restaurant, at marketing the restaurant, about just creating word of mouth for the restaurant, the more people are going to burn gasoline, the more they're going to go to work and then spend the money and use more energy. The more trash that's going to create, the more times you're going to call your suppliers and order more goods. So you're going to create more entropy by creating more configuration, more certainty, which is like a smaller and smaller path. It's a bit like that agent we're talking about earlier that finds the best path. So that is our plight as living beings, and especially as humans in this information age of so much debris, so much we're so confused and distracted and overwhelmed with endless information and dumb questions, when really the questions are, I think I can do this. What do I have to do this? The reason is dumb. Let me find a less dumb reason. Let me continue with the course of action. Continue until I'm stopped. I'm going to do this crazy thing, and I'm going to keep going until it stops me or until I succeed. And of course, it doesn't usually work because of entropy, because there are more possible configurations where things don't work. Of every configuration of the wires in your home right now, you could rearrange the configuration of wires. Some of them will start fires, but most of them will disconnect the power in your home or disconnect the audio. There are many ways to keep making it better, though. You want the best feng shui. You want the best arrangement that feels good. You want, like, if the potential love of your life is coming over, you would want it to look the best or ideal. So you would want, but the point is that there are more configurations that are not good. And then when things do become good, when things are just mediocre, in order to improve on mediocre, you have less and less choices to make it better and better and better. So you actually have to explore and then sacrifice and not just go with the half-baked idea that's not really great, that you spent a lot of time and effort and hopes and had your hopes kind of dashed because it wasn't great. It was okay. And you didn't get rid of it, even though you could have, you should have, you could have not given in to this diseased information age we live in and distract yourself doom scrolling or doing something else dumb, rewatching a TV show you don't like, or just wasted your life in some other way with all of this information, but instead sought out the next one thing, and then the one thing after that you could do, and then the one thing after that you knew you could do, until you got to the terminal state or go with something else. But why am I on this jag again about what we're supposed to... But that is what humans do. That was humans living in caves in Stone Age times. When we finally went from the Stone Age, was the Bronze Age first? Bronze Age, blades to cut food, to cut clothing, to cut and build shelters. Everyone with a blade to do that, and to also defend against people who wanted to take what's yours, using food, clothing, shelter to have goods to build, and then to prevent people from taking what is yours. We talked about inflation and confiscation, and how now it's just straight up fraud, straight up crime, and endless. That's probably why these guys are so morose in this video, and there's so much fear. But I digress. So that progress, that precision with speed and efficiency of the blade to do these things: food, clothing, shelter, defense. And then if you didn't get with that, the people who stayed with stones didn't make it. And then we got the Iron Age, and that was even better. Then we got some armor. And then how long was that after the Iron Age that we got better materials? But that we had fire before or after that. And then the people who had candles, who were able to directly apply. People want to put science, technology, engineering, math into a different category, but really it's what humans are. It's why the AI was able to wipe out the arts and take such ownership, just own the arts and the white collar before. And it's why maybe not Hollywood. Well, Hollywood should panic because of the video generation, but it's why Hollywood and all these, the big four criminal cities, Wall Street, Washington, D.C., Silicon Valley, Hollywood, that they're getting their lunches eaten. And who are the other the local criminals? Like doctors' monopolies are pretty safe, but the lawyers, the accountants, and whatever other people are doing in those offices, moving money around, getting their rents extracted from their schemes, getting that 0% interest loan to buy back shares, whatever other criminal life they're in. It's not technically criminal, but extracting from the actual production, getting those fake certificates and redeeming them for the actual real work. But this is what humans are anyway. It's STEM is another way of, even the arts too are a way of compression of intelligence, of applied intelligence, speed, precision, force, directed, and learning the best policy, the best course of action, and then correcting course being wrong quickly, and learning. This is what all organisms do. From the rocks are involved in chemical reactions and being burned, and then you get a code when you get to life. RNA, DNA, bacteria, single-celled organisms, parasites, bugs, plants, these things have codes, and they are trying to get the free energy, the lowest cost energy, and apply it to get their food. But it's about, you see it with mammals, animals, and territory, birds with their songs, their codes, possessing the code. The code, when it comes to inanimate objects, is, as far as we understand it, the periodic table of elements, the study of chemistry, Newton's laws of motion, the relativity of Einstein. That is how we encode inanimate objects. We don't fully understand it when it comes to quantum on very small or very large. Maybe just from the fact that these are totally unintelligible, and the fact that you can look at a photon and it acts one way. It's kind of rendering when you look at a photon, and if you're not looking at it, it's just kind of a wave doing whatever. And that the universe at a very high scale, galaxies, the way that they're moving doesn't work without some fake material. Maybe that's proof we're living in a simulation, or a simulation is the best explanation for what we are in. But the truth, again, is entropy. Nothing contradicts entropy. Entropy is the true one thing, and it tells us what to do. Isn't that something that everyone says? What's the point of the universe? What's the point of memory? Like he said, like, we get it. We have a memory. Like, what's the point of sentience? Like I said, sentience and consciousness. Consciousness is directed towards something, usually directed toward the future, what action we're going to take in the future, and what tools we use, what external things in the world that we apply to increase entropy. And it's not only in a crude way. I guess that's the difference between science and technology, that it's somewhat reductive, but that there are also uncertainties that we can open up and ponder and then work towards resolving, or increasing entropy and then resolving the entropy. Have I defined entropy well enough? Like, there are more possible configurations, like I said with the wires. If you have white ping pong balls and black ping pong balls in a shoebox, like layer of white ping pong balls, layer of black ping pong balls, you can shake that box, and there are so many more configurations of those white and black ping pong balls. Not only to be, you can just say white or black and forget about the individual definition of each ping pong ball in each position, but the number of states, you can call them configurations. The configurations that are disorder and that are not negative entropy, that are an increase in entropy, are much more. So that is why entropy is a built-in feature. So there is the code, information is real. And when it comes to the information as entropy, it is uncertainty. The physical world and disorder, that is how we define entropy in the physical world. Although I am using it somewhat metaphorically, these are actually strict terms in information. The bit is the unit of entropy. It's why computers are made with zeros and ones. Claude Shannon and John von Neumann. Von Neumann, the computer you're watching this on now, is probably mostly a von Neumann architecture. And then Claude Shannon invented the bits. So we have ones and zeros, binary system, because that's the smallest unit of information. Bits and bytes So, but it is a measure of the amount of information you have. That's the other thing. Information in that sense is what resolves the uncertainty. And if you have a lot of information, that must mean you have a lot of uncertainty, or you can get rid of most of that information. And that also speaks to the, I don't think I have it on the screen anymore, the reason why you can't do something, and that the reason why is dumb, because the amount of entropy around systems. Also, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of rules, a lot of people who charge you tax, essentially, and tax is a waste of energy. Tax is a leak of energy, because people exchanging, like the butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker are exchanging, and if they're able to do equal trades for the value, not the amount of energy. I'm not a labor is a source of all value type of person, but the amount of value in the goods and the amount of entropy that resolves in the goods or the service, and if that is traded for an equal other good or service for another equal amount of entropy that is being resolved, and the people responsible for those, if there's not energy leaking in the form of a government taking that surplus and then giving it to someone who is not productive, and then spending it like the money is not theirs, spending it on someone they don't know, that's like, what's the difference between that and theft? And inflation too, of course. Just making the person who's good at creating the goods having to sell that and get less and less compensation for it, and paying higher and higher rent, because the people who did counterfeit it are, or people who get that counterfeited money first, are putting their counterfeited money into more things like gold, and also houses and things that we know people need. These are the things that inflate no matter what: housing, healthcare, education, cars, the things that people really need. Not only are they things that people bid up the price for to protect their inflation with a house, or maybe even cars, but also when it comes to education and healthcare, it's something that people will set up their toll on. The trolls will set up their troll toll on those access points in education and in healthcare, because they know there's an inelastic demand, and that people will basically pay any price, especially then when they also get the government to pay for it. So it is a waste of energy. I don't care if it helps people who are less fortunate. It is crime. So taking productive work and enslaving people to give it to someone that the government decides deserves it more than the voluntary exchange. Because really, it also comes down to this, and this is something I skipped over when I was talking about the gold. Sorry, let me turn that off. No loop back. Really, it's about the candlestick maker and people producing things in the wagon wheels. You want to produce things that you voluntarily produced because it was good and the service, and then you want to voluntarily get the thing that you want in exchange. So you can offer something good, something that somebody wants in order to get what you want, or you can offer something that somebody does not want. And which one do the counterfeiters do, and which one do the people who confiscate money and property do? You cannot resist them, or else, or some really bad things happen. Not in the country I live in, but under corrupt governments, of course. My country is a one where we can elect the leaders, right? And they wouldn't ever do anything bad to the people, but that's the story of every other government, right, throughout history that does bad things if you don't let them confiscate the money, right? But that's the situation with gold, that it's a good store hold. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of doing it already on our phones, right? Every time I look at my phone, it's like on this day, and you see like pictures of your kids from 10 years ago. You're like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that was my point. It was not just, sorry to interrupt again, but that humans should voluntarily reduce entropy. Humans do not create entropy. It is not, even though the maybe the only escape is to be more criminal than the criminal culture we live in, and be like, that's why the Sopranos were popular and all this degenerate gangster rap is popular, because these are people who get to break away the system and do what they want, but they are doing it by offering a negative consequence offer. They are forcing a negative consequence as opposed to offering negative entropy. Humans are supposed to offer negative entropy goods and services in order to build and do things and have bonds and, family relationships, friends, tribes, above nations. I mean, it should be bottom up and not top down. If it's top down, it's not long for this world, and they're going to have to expend propaganda and lies, manipulation, not only to keep people buying into it, but also more and more debt and more bag holders for the debt, because the money is fake and becoming more and more fake and more worthless, right?
Wow, that's crazy. I forgot.
But every thing in the game of life is also doing this. Humans just have a very bulky, very misunderstood way of doing it, which we call the economy, which just the units of the economy, the things that make up the economy, are the units of trade, whether it's a big company or a small company or a big group of buyers or a small group of buyers, people who voluntarily are better off. I give my effort, my work, my negative entropy, my applied thing, and I do it in the world and have this end results, goods or service, or maybe even I'm just a friend who's so interesting to interact with that I get to be part of the entourage or whatever. But my existence is negative entropy and reduces entropy. So our version of evolution into the future, our version of encoding our literal code, which we also use to articulate in the world, like at the line, like there's a moment of truth for where we apply our actions and our plan and our codes, our encoding, and it's like the line. The line in a restaurant is the consequential part, or the front line in a war is the consequential part, and a line is linen. The word line comes from linen, from twisting together linen, plant fibers. Like the book Moby Dick says, God is a weaver. Like the world, reality, lay it on the line, like they say, or I'm sure they use line in other things. But the line is the consequential thing for the future. And all of life is doing this. All of life is extracting the energy from places that deserve it less than we deserve it. And it is going into the negative entropy for our friends. And it is with precision and speed and the most force and the most focus is another way of saying negative entropy, but we use that and use that against our enemies, just like we use the Bronze Age, when they finally got the blade and they're using that on their food, clothing, and shelter, and their goods and their furniture, or chopping down trees. So using negative entropy and then using it and putting it on the line is what all of life is doing. It's just what humans are able to do. It we're able to be hijacked by communists and intellectuals and people using entropy, just creating entropy. Like someone like Hassan is creating entropy. These so-called intellectuals, people who think that they can think their way out of it, or that more information and the mental gymnastics that goes on the communist side, which always ends in an inversion of what humans are, which humans are the ones who apply negative entropy but create more entropy, which you create the most entropy by doing the most negative entropy thing, which is don't deny it. It's what you want. You want more than enough money to live, and you want to be the top choice in the dating market, in the friendship market, in the job market. And if you deny it, you're just coping. You're just being an idiot. There's something wrong with you. You need to lift weights and try and do more things and develop more. But these have definitions that have specific equations. Entropy in the physical world is disorder. Entropy in the information world is uncertainty. But they apply to us in our lives, like using the blade, the Bronze Age person who's an expert at chopping with the blade, expert at chopping down trees, expert at slicing up enemies, expert at slicing up, let's say, the pirates, the Vikings who are coming to pillage and plunder. The more expert they are at using that blade, at using that tool, the more that tool is just a part of their hand. So when they're swinging their blade, then their blade is working, functioning optimally. You don't even have to think. There's so little information is not even different from the hand. Like a tennis player, they have such control of the ball and the racket and the position of their feet and where they are on the court. It's like it's all one thing. There would be more information if there were different things. But if the racket loses its string, if the shoes laces come undone, then it is not working. It's more conspicuous, more information, right? More disorder, more information, more to resolve. Like there are things in your home right now you've never thought about. What about the hinges of the door that has worked fine? You haven't thought about it, but if the door gets a little off or the door just falls off the hinges are going to create information. This is what this is a problem with podcasts. I'm doing it and I'm trying to explain why it's so diseased to have podcasts and have a lot of information. You're creating like a symptom of disorder. And what's even more than that is you can just create information about blades, about the way blades are used. Are the blades used fairly? Are the Vikings really the good guys? Is civilization bad? Should the blades be sacrificed for the river? Should we bury people with their blades because of this theory or that theory? Is it fair that someone has the blades? Should people with blonde hair have more blades than people with dark hair? Do the blue-eyed people have more blades? And you can open up information and create more information that never ends. And really the society, this is another thing when it comes to Aristotle and Freud and this endless information world that we live in, the podcast world that we live in. And I guess I'm in it here now with 0 viewers. But the thing is, like, it's creating paralysis. It's entropy. It's literally entropy. But there is other information that is not useful. Like, it's not about a thing or a tool or expertise. There's science, there's comedy, there is drama, there's the arts, poetry. Well, how is that information different? It is compressed. And compression is negative entropy. Like we talked about before, most people, when they're creating music, they're trying different drafts, they're trying different things. In the case of Mozart was already, he just came out of the womb compressed already, and he did not have any second guessing or drafts. Tesla was like that too, how he could just get the spark of the vision and output that. But for most people, it's going to be compression, compression, compression. Find a new path. If there's anything there that can be used as a good or negative entropy, something pleasing, like, that's how we know that art is good, that comedy is good, that writing is good, drama, that it has been, it either comes from someone who's compressed for some reason. Like compression is another way of saying intelligence, because compression is about doing the essential, which is a way of, like, if you're representing information with more information than is needed, then that can be reduced. Reducing it reduces the entropy. And reducing the entropy is like I may have kind of established, the purpose of the universe. And definitely the purpose of life, because life does it even more than other processes in the world of inanimate objects and out there in the void. And then when it goes from less complex to more and more complex organisms, the more and more complex organisms are doing even more negative entropy. And the negative entropy, the reason for all of that complexity is to do negative entropy. The reason for a smart person, the reason you're smart or should be smart, is that you are doing compression. You can do the compression and do it for a small audience or a large audience, but you should be doing it for an audience or for something, somewhere. Some other people were very social in that way, that we need to connect and have the code, like the code is us, and we lay it on the line. So doing a thing, and that's really the risk about it, is not knowing and letting the risk about it do the compression to you, and walking the gauntlet through and coming through the fire and coming through that compression. I keep using the word compression. Have I established what compression is? Negative entropy. Compression is figuring out every possibility for the art piece that you're creating and going with the best possibility. And you could just run right through it if you're filled with the kind of inspiration and glee and the spirit of the muse of whatever, and you can just run right through it. Boom, boom, boom. Configuration, best configuration. Then you can do it that way, or you can do it the long way, exploring this path, this path, this path. There have been sunk costs, but you don't turn in work that's half-baked. You have to sacrifice that. But anyway, the AI is doing compression. Have I established this yet? Also, It's billions of neurons. Like this 405, I'm pretty sure, I've been out of the game for a little bit, but this 405 billion is the number of neurons. And it can take a huge amount. You can talk on this for 66, that's 60 hours. You can have one conversation and get a long answer out of it or a short answer. But it's very good at compression. And you can put a file with all of your conversations with ChatGPT in here. You can put all of your emails in another file in here. And you can get what you want. It's just about directing it. And also having it at the, I think they call it edge computing, but having it in the right context. Context, context, context. Very important. I think it's very important that we have art that is local, that is from the ground up. And there's no reason we can't do this with AI. Not only art, but collaboration. Like Andy Warhol said that good art is good business. Business is bad, of course. Nobody likes business. People think of the movie Office Space when they think of business, or they think of the course boys and the hustle culture, bro. This is what I did. Wake up 5 a.m., ice bath, 5:30, conference call, exploit myself, put myself out there. Yeah, it should be deliberate, should be focused things. I mean, what else are you going to do? Talk to an AI about yourself? You know, you should be pushing the limit, but in a way you want to work like a heart surgeon. You don't want to be like, how do you want your heart surgeon working on your heart? Which you should never let yourself get into that situation, but if you did, they should be very well studied, prepared, but not so overly prepared that they can't accept a anomaly in the situation. Not robotic, but concerned. You know how you would want a heart surgeon to work on your heart, and that is the way that you should be working on things. Not as a try hard, not as a course boy. But this is what humans are. Have I established? I mean, this was my point at the beginning of the video, that we should establish what humans are, what the AI is, what we should be doing, how we should be using it. You can't connect your vision or your brain or your sensors into this thing. And it's really not doing more than ChatGPT does already. It's just text. It doesn't have control of the audio. It's just using a certain kind of text, your conversations. Nobody cares what your conversations are. Might get used for training at Grok. You never know. And then taking a screenshot. You're already uploading pictures to the AI too. But this is the kind of thing at the edge we should be using. But what even got me on that topic?
About that place.
Yeah.
10 years ago, you're like, right? Every time I look at my phone, it's like on this day, and you see like pictures of your kids from 10 years ago. You're like, oh,
Right,
wow.
like memory and what humans are supposed
that's crazy.
to be.
I forgot about that place. I forgot we went there. You know, it's just one of those things where once you give into it, you're not going back to just regular fond memories. You're going to have a fucking hard drive in your head.
Do you think that, so I can go on, I've got a speech I'm giving to, on gun control, or I got a speech I'm giving on grant initiatives.
Gun control.
I can ask AI, and it can pop out a badass. Here's 1, 2, 3 sections.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cut and paste this and say exactly these words because it kind of sounds like a little AI. But boy, it's done a lot of work, and it's laid out a synopsis. It's laid out a treatment for me in 10 seconds. Do you think that there's value in not doing that and going, no, I'm looking over my stuff. I'm taking notes. I'm cutting and pasting. I'm doing it myself. Are we learning more by that?
Why don't you cut and paste and look at your AI interactions instead. Just apply that same amount of effort you would cutting and pasting and hypothesizing into hypothesizing prompts and then getting different, there's nothing stopping you from exerting the same amount of effort
that way to understand the content and the
Why not
context of
both?
our content. When we do that, what some would call busy work now, to formulate our synopsis, which AI can do it in 10 seconds. Are we learning more by doing it ourselves?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's one of the things that they've found about ChatGPT is that people that use it on a regular basis are experiencing cognitive decline.
Right.
What was that study? We brought it up the other day, right? But they've shown that because you let it think for you.
Right.
Now
you can do that. You can allow. There have been more and more things throughout the history of the history of civilization where you are able to do less and less and be more and more of a you could let yourself turn into a houseplant essentially, and you're going to be able to do that now. But I think I've already belabored the point that you can or should use AI to push the limit of what it can do while pushing the limit of what you think you can do, and aim higher. Especially doing things that you don't know if you can do, and then falling short, not being able to do it, and then correcting course is one way of building, of getting something out of it. But also, I'm not one who says that learning from failure necessarily in itself is good, but learning how to win and failing along the way, but achieving the thing. You don't learn a policy like as the Markov decision process shows. You learn the policy by getting to the final reward.
it's doing all the work for you.
So
You're not
you're
using
smarter.
your brain.
You have more knowledge.
You have more
You
information.
pass the math test.
Yeah, you have more information, but your brain is not making it. It's not putting it together, and so your brain is less capable.
Yeah.
So it's probably less enjoyable.
And what happens when we're in the proverbial foxhole? When we have to improvise in a moment
Right.
before we're linked up.
Right, you're soft.
When we have
Well,
to
you better have your gun in your foxhole.
go, I got to handle this.
Yeah.
Well,
And you
you don't
can't
have to
because
do
you're
I
soft.
can't rely because I don't have anything to lean on. I'm looking for my safety net of AI to find out what it should be, and I don't have it.
You should always have your AI. You should never bring a knife to a gunfight. You should always have your tools. A Boy Scout should always be prepared. A man should always be prepared. A man with dependents should always be prepared. What were you doing that you weren't prepared and you didn't have the thing? So what?
You're
It's got to
fucked.
be a death. You're fucked.
Well, you're not fucked. It takes about 6 weeks to learn how to do something really well. If you have to fall back on something, if we got hit with some solar flares and all the electricity went out, you and your neighbors could probably figure out something to start burning some wood and figuring out how to get some defenses soon enough. Humans are the people who win, the organisms that win the evolution are people who adapt, not people who are dug in someplace and being prepared enough, having a sense about it. You should know that already. The internet's not going anywhere, even if we did have catastrophe, even if they totally outlaw AI, because the cancer on society who wants to use this as an opportunity to keep their gravy train going and seize the AI under the guise of controlling the AI for the good of humanity. They are, they're not going to win. They're not going to make it. They're going to be replaced. They're not adaptable.
Yeah, you're fucked. Yeah. It's like someone who's never lifted anything, and then you get stuck under, a tree falls on you. Like, you don't have the strength to get this off of you.
Right.
Like, you're really in a bad place. When you're not using your brain, because all you have to do is just ask this thing and information, you basically have a digital daddy. Like, Daddy, tell me what this is. Daddy, tell me what that is.
Yeah.
And it makes you like a little bit of an infant. It turns you into an infant.
Yes.
Yeah, it could.
I mean, you don't even have to have arguments
not really.
anymore. You just like ChatGPT will explain exactly what everything is all
Right.
about. You
And what
give up
about
your
these,
opinions
these,
to it.
these relationships, these people that are
Oh,
dating,
yeah.
that program them, do not argue with me. Just placate me and tell me
Oh, yeah.
sweet tales and how great I am. And this relationship is awesome. It has no resistance. It gives me self-confidence. Or
Yeah.
does it really? Or a sense of self-confidence and significance. They listen. They're there whenever, 24/7.
Yeah.
They're never sick. They're never in a mood. No matter what mood I'm in,
Yeah.
they're always right there to coddle me. And that's
That sounds pretty good. That sounds better than talking to an AI about yourself, because people get dragged into government schools for 13 years, and they are not allowed to talk to each other. The environment, in a lot of cases, is vicious. You're dealing with dumb people, nasty kids, teachers who don't care. Not allowed to talk in a lot of cases. Weird status stuff. The money's fake, of course. And you have this criminal city near you broadcasting from DC, New York, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, of these criminals, overloaded information, broadcasting these stupid status things. You can see how dumb it was in the 90s or 80s or 70s, how the high status thing looks so dumb. And the one now, I mean, they're not, I don't know, there isn't, it doesn't really seem like they're trying anymore. It seems like nobody's really trying to be the elites anymore, or the ideal thing anymore. I mean, we don't even have that. That's how far gone we are. But anyway, I was trying to make a point. Being a kid, you're in a very antisocial situation. So when the men are not being men, reducing entropy, being prepared, being strong, and who knows what the women are doing or what's ideal for them to do anymore. And this civilization is collapsing because they can't interact. I think if you're talking to a chatbot and then you have the vocabulary ready, as long as it's not totally insane, if the chatbot you're talking to is like reasonable, you should at least get one chatbot to be like Aristotle maybe. But if you're talking to a reasonable chatbot or virtual, when by the time we get the VR companions, that's going to be good. You're going to be much more well off having your vocabulary built up from interacting with that than you will from 13 years plus another 16 years, $200,000 into debt, and really can't do much of anything. You've only been spoon-fed the different status games and keeping the grift alive for the criminals. The grifter's a better word. You're going to be much better off. You're at least going to be able to talk in a job interview or talk to somebody you don't know a little better.
Talk about conveniences.
Well,
That's
pretty good.
What's the asset of that or because I don't want to be nostalgic in the midst of all this change either.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an old-fashioned guy because it's coming. So I want to learn how to interact with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and be a guy who's going, oh bullshit, everything needs to be manual. Just work harder. I don't want to be that guy. But I'm trying to measure, like a lot of people. Well, wait a minute. What's actually useful for the long term in our own evolution and my evolution and your evolution? What's useful with this AI? How do we use it smartly? And what's a bad idea?
Yeah, I hope I could answer that directly. Season 1, True Detective. Even though that character was... His character was a good character, but even like the acting and the story was kind of good, but the director of photography was very good. The writing was just Reddit tier atheist stuff, especially for his character. But yeah, get back to work with True Detective Season 1. That was his name. Pizzolatto. Nick Pizzolatto. Or something else. I don't know. I'm sure someone who's made as many films has interest in making more films. So, yeah, collaborating in a group, different ways of talking about how a film could get made, putting all your personal stuff in there. Hope to see it. And what'd you think of that talk? So I hope this is how we're using AI. No need for me to reiterate all the stuff I went into. And see you next time.